Good morning. It is Sunday, and not just any Sunday. It is a Sunday as we are running up very closely to the primary here in Florida, and that's going to be a gangbanger, so to speak. We have two guests today, because we are getting so close to the primary. We've got to jam extra people in here because you've got to know just who to vote for. It's not important just to walk in there and go alphabetical and say, "Oh yeah, the first guy on the top." Just check off him, because that's not going to work for me. It's not going to work for you. But what is going to work for is you're going to sit there and listen to us and talk to the candidates here on the rotation. Okay. My name is Gary Stein. I'm our political director here at Suncoast Normal and our master of public health. That's where you put in the side effects, but I guess Carlos is not there. Is Carlos there, or is he not there?
Yeah, you can't hear that?
He's off camera. Okay.
Gary wants you to change the camera angle so we can see your beautiful smile, Carlos. It's because he can't hear the
Okay, anyways, there you go. And to my left, coming to us from Chillum in Ybor City, where Carlos Angel Ermida is the proprietor of Chillum CBD and Mushroom Dispensary, and our deputy director and master of business administration, Carlos Angel Ermida.
Thank you.
Side effects. And to his right, to my left, when the camera moves, our executive director, coming to us once more from Ybor City, and not from Appalachia, and not from Maryland, where he sometimes hides out near the capital of the United States, where he does important federal work. Also, our executive director, Christopher Cano. Chris, how are things going today?
Doing good. It's a beautiful sunny day after a light early morning rain here in Tampa. So just gotta love the humidity.
Yeah. Now, we, again, are heading towards the primary. I hate primaries. I tell people about it before because it's kind of like listening to a family feud. You really have to worry about, am I going to upset this person for life if I knock him down? Because people are constantly into negative campaigning. And yet you guys got to work together after the election, which is always a difficult situation. So that's one of the things I want to discuss with our first guest tonight. Coming to us also from Hillsborough County, Robin Lockett. Robin, how you doing today?
I am doing great, and thank you for having me.
And you are running for the state representative's position for House District 63, correct?
Correct.
And where exactly is House District 63?
Oh, House District 63 covers all of Temple Terrace, all of East Tampa, Tampa Heights, Seminole Heights, part of Ybor City, part of West Tampa, and everything south, partially south of Fowler. So it's a big district.
So Robin, we're sitting in your district right now then, huh? But here on 7th Avenue.
Absolutely.
Okay. Very cool.
Absolutely.
And who used to be there up until recently? Who is still there right now?
Rep Diane Hart currently.
Yeah,
let me correct
so
that.
That's Miss D's district.
Yeah, Diane Hart Lowman. She just recently got married, so she's currently sits.
That's awesome.
And what made you decide to go to grab the mantle and go after Miss D's spot?
About 2 years ago, Rep Hart reached out to me and asked would I consider running once she terms out. At that time, 2 years ago, I was moving heavy here in within the city of Tampa, moving policy and persuasion within the city council. So I told her, Tallahassee, y'all ain't doing ish up there, and I got everything moving here. But once I thought about it, and I gave it I thought about it for 2 years, and I came up to the conclusion that all of the work that I've done here, it would provide me with a larger platform to continue to push policy, encourage people to be a part of it. Because right now, the saying used to be, democracy requires participation, it demands it now. So I have a vision of just organizing people to be more engaged. And once they're more engaged, they're going to make better decisions about their life.
Robin, I've seen you work on that engagement for so long. It feels like so long ago, but I remember working with you at what's now called Florida Rising. And, we did voter registration. We did issue IDs in the neighborhood. I mean, I've seen you advocate for rent stabilization and all these great policies that we continue to fight for at the local level end up getting just knocked down with preemption in Tallahassee.
Right.
So, you do have a pulse and you understand these issues intricately. And I think it's great to see you, be able to go up there and bring that expertise of being on the ground and actually being in the trenches of fighting with folks and alongside folks for so long. I mean, we wouldn't have been successful in flipping the state attorney's race in 2016 if it wasn't for what you did in supporting my work at Florida Rising.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, hey, Kano, you need to put together a team of like 40 folks and go out there and register voters and knock on doors and get people out to vote. And I was like, I don't know if I can call 40 people in my phone right now who need a job. But Robin, you were so connected to the community. You sent me hundreds of applicants and we built a team that really got rid of one of the worst prohibitionists. He was ranked number 3, the 3rd worst prohibitionist in the country. Mark Ober locked up as state attorney more people for weed charges than all violent crimes together in his 16 years in serving. And it was because of the work that you did with me at Florida Rising, where we were able to get that person out of office, get Andrew Warren elected. Sadly, the governor removed Andrew Warren over politics. But, it just goes to show that if you're in the community and you have a pulse to what the people need, and you actually talk to people, you can actually move people, organize people, and get shit done. And so I would just like to say that I'm going to call you the Get Shit Done representative when you get up there to Tallahassee, because I know that's what you're going to do.
And, it's important. Thank you for that, Chris. And, I'm humble, right? Because it takes a perfect storm for this to happen, right? Mark Ober was not a good person, and a lot of people were on the same page with that. So it was a collective effort. You did a lot of work in regards to making it happen. It's not only registering people, but ensuring, right? We tag team, because now we have to ensure that those people go out and vote, right?
Oh, yeah.
But and then it was like the same thing with the race with Nia Young. It was a perfect storm of people collectively moving, not even collaborating with one another, but they were moving in the same direction, that they wanted something different, right? They wanted something different, and they weren't going to settle.
Well, we've been pushing and trying and pushing and trying.
Yes.
And keep hitting roadblocks when it comes to policy in Tallahassee. The initial thing we fought for was to get medical marijuana passed. We founded this chapter of NORML in 2014, all around the fact that we saw the fight over medical marijuana was starting to become about political opinions and not sick people needing safe access to a life-saving medicine. And when it failed in 2014, that really hurt a lot of people, because there were lots of folks,
Right.
on a lifeline needing it. I mean, my own father included. And then in 2016, we got it done. We passed over 71% of the vote. But in all of that, we've seen access to the plant denied. There's no home grow allowed in the state of Florida, even though the legislature should have figured out that problem. People still get fired from their jobs in this state, even though they follow the law, they get their medical cards. We just recently had it solved to where the issue of being able to be a gun owner in America and in this state and still be a medical marijuana patient is still kind of getting resolved. But, at least the court has said, you can't lose your constitutional rights because you're a medical marijuana patient. But the state legislature really thought, or still thinks, a lot of ways they've got this over and done with. And that's why we're still advocating and yelling, hey, no, this isn't done. We need worker protections in the state of Florida.
Right.
We need parental rights established as medical marijuana patients like they have in other states like Virginia and New York, because you could still lose your kid in a custody battle for being a medical marijuana patient. There are professional licenses that you can hold in this state that you might be investigated or possibly have sanctions against. I mean, in Maryland, just this year, I passed a policy policy that said veterinarians can't receive professional sanctions for recommending, medical marijuana products for their dogs. That's just wild that even in the state like Maryland, which is an adult use state, there's still all these unintended consequences of legalization that are holdovers from a time where society was all about total prohibition. And we don't live in that society anymore. And so many lawmakers, they don't have the expertise and they don't pay attention to it. But you're in the streets. You're listening to people. You're listening. You hear with us right now. So I'm hoping that we can count on you to co-sponsor and help us champion some of these things that will actually help working folks in regards to being medical marijuana patients.
So with my platform is, I can explain what my platform is because that's my life experience.
Yeah.
Right. When it comes to, so I've never smoked marijuana. My kids do. Okay. And I'm being and they claim they have anxiety. So whatever makes them, they're adults, right? So they do. But how do we, but I have enough sense to ask questions. I have enough sense not to judge. I have enough sense to try to figure it out. Because if the majority of people, there's a lot of people that smoke it, that eat the gummies. My kids have told me I need to calm down and eat a gummy. But again, it's not for me to look down on, it's for me to try to understand. And with me understanding, I'm going to ask the questions. And if I ask the questions, then I'll be able to explain it when I'm trying to push it. So I supported the legalization of it. But a lot of times with Tallahassee, they create laws and they say yes to things without the implementation and the implementation in the toe of it. That's what's missing, right?
Yeah.
So, but they're not having the experts to come around and say, hey, what about this? What about somebody losing their job? What about this? To add up to the total completion of moving that policy forward.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they do have experts, but the experts are saying the opposite, right? Because those experts are paid on payroll by people who have an economic interest in maintaining the status quo. Whether that's an economic interest in the school to prison pipeline, the economic interest in the over criminalization in society, the economic interest in building the surveillance state that we're seeing going up all around us. I mean, they call this the free state of Florida, but we got more flock cameras than any state I can count on. We're over 7,000. I mean, that's pretty wild to see that, they're monitoring it everywhere we go, everything we do. They monitor our transactions. And people always say, well, if you're not doing nothing wrong, it's like, no, that's not how freedom is imagined. Freedom is both the ability to say and do what you will, as long as it's not harming anybody, and also to maintain your own privacy. And that I think we're losing a lot of that in this day and age. I mean, and not just that, it's a matter of going back to the issue of local control and preemption. I mean, you got local governments to give people water breaks if they work outside in 100-degree Florida heat, and Tallahassee said no water breaks. And that's just shocking to me that there are powers that be in business interests that think a 10-minute water break is too much for workers.
That's just it, Chris. I mean, we have a situation where the topics they bring up in Tallahassee are not necessarily the topics that the constituents are interested in hearing. This is so far away from constituent services to start saying we need to work on a bill to make certain that people who are dehydrated out there on the workplace fall down from even more dehydration because we're Tallahassee. We can do anything we want to do.
Yeah.
But how many people know about that? Right. Yeah. A lot of people don't know. So a lot of people, again, that's the key to everything. Like I said earlier, democracy demands participation. So how many people really know about that? That they cut that out? Yeah. Not a lot of people. Right? People would just gripe and not feel empowered, but they'll just go along with it and not understanding the fight that they do have to fight against it.
Yeah. Well, Robin, one of the other things that is interesting when we talk about, a lot of people don't know, a lot of people don't realize or know that the past 3 sessions, maybe 4, I would say, Carlos, that the politicians in Tallahassee and some business interests have tried to put this small business that we're broadcasting from, out of the market, out of business. The hemp industry has been under attack in both Tallahassee and Washington. So I'm really excited. Robin, you represent Carlos, you're a small business owner. Robin's running to represent the district in which your business exists, and you've had to close the St. Pete shop and such. I just wanted to get your perspective of talking to your future state rep as to how do you feel about these attacks in Tallahassee, wanting to shut down a legitimate business that you're doing everything right. And for some reason they hold up a few bad apples, like we should shut down this whole industry.
I say, I've been fortunate enough. The truth is that the woman that you're going to replace, Diane Hart, was actually an ally of ours for quite some time. I mean, the truth is that like it's other legislators throughout the state that are really pushing this type of thing. There's been another person okay, so in the Senate, it's always. In the House, it's always somebody new. I can't even remember who the first representative was. It was Williams at one point. I don't remember who the rest were. How can we? I don't even know really what to ask. It's like, how can we get like a better representation for hemp stores in the House? I guess that's a better way of saying that.
So the question the question, Carlos, I would ask is, how are they? In what way are they trying to shut you down?
They take our products that are safe and have been proven to be suitable for
human consumption,
whatever human consumption, and medicinal qualities to it. And they take this fake narrative that it's harmful for children, and they often cite that there's all these calls to poison control, kids getting into their parents' hemp. But there's no hospitalizations, there's no issues with the kids. The kids are typically fine. They eat some Funyuns and they drink some tea and they're good. But the thing is that they pass these laws that limit our products. So they limit our THC products. They say that they're unsafe, that they get kids high. They cite mundane, singular situations that of a kid getting into their parents' pot. And then they basically straight up ban a bunch of our products.
And
in November, the federal government actually is quite possibly going to be banning all these products right now.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, this is an industry that was created by the 2018 Farm Bill. Nikki Fried, as Commissioner of Agriculture, just set out to attempt to regulate it. Under Wilton Simpson, there's been no real engagement. And like Carlos said, we've seen some Polk County legislators.
Here's what it comes down to, Robin. It's the big cannabis. We compete with big cannabis, and now corporate cannabis in the state of Florida. They're making some good money. These companies are they're oligopolies at this point. Yeah. They're only allowing a certain amount to operate within the state. They have their corner of the market covered, right? And then all of a sudden, there's a guy named Carlos Rubita in Ybor City that's selling a product that does what they do, right, for a cheaper price, and you don't need a medical card for it. So they put this fake narrative out that the products that I have are safe, but the products they have are safe, right? And they're now in cahoots with big alcohol. They've tried so many times to get rid of us. We've gone grassroots on them, and we would call legislators, and we would influence our customers to call the legislators. And fortunately, for the past 4 years now?
Yeah, 4 years.
Fortunately, we've made an impact. We've been able to keep it at bay. But they're throwing money at legislators now to get us out of the market.
That's the money thing, Carlos. We know that there are a lot of special interests that have a pipeline towards certain representatives who will do their bidding if they can get leadership to go ahead and move forward. Because in in Tallahassee, we know, especially on the GOP side, leadership basically sets the policy. Everybody else has to follow in line. And if they don't,
So
that's what happens.
So Kano comes at me and is like, is there anything that you want to ask a future legislator in your district? And it's like, dude, like, I mean, how can we make it to so that legislators aren't paying attention to these corporate interests anymore? I mean, that's essentially what it comes down to. It's like I ask in my stoner way of, oh, how can potheads get better representation? No, the truth is that there's big corporate interests that are against the hemp industry, right? There's a lot of small businesses in Florida. There's a few like lobbying entities like Healthy Hemp Alternatives that do a great job of representing small businesses, but it's a small grassroots effort still. And big alcohol is coming for us. I'm sure private prisons at some point are going to be part of that. And big cannabis is coming for us.
And the lobbyists for those entities are all the same people in a lot of times. Mm-hmm. It's the same lobbying firms representing big cannabis and private prisons. That's a scary thought.
Yeah.
And here in Florida, the Commissioner of Agriculture is very big on getting rid of the hemp industry as it was when he took office, which is I'm not saying that Wilton Simpson kowtows to his own private interests, but like for instance, right now he owns stake in a company that is going to expand more, building more housing, more congestive housing in East Hernando County where he lives.
So Robin, this long setup that I have, essentially is like, how can we get politicians to care more about people than corporate interests?
So by doing, for one, a politician can't, if they don't have a track record of caring about things like this there's a lot of noise. If they don't care about issues before they get in office, they're not going to care about issues when they get in office, right? If they're not of the community and thoughtful of the community before they get in office, they're not going to pick it up and all of a sudden care about it. There has to be a plan of knocking people off, not literally, but just getting the right people in office, right? That's a long-term plan. But there has to be, because as long as they stay in charge, you're going to continuously have the same issues. And you have to have people bold enough to not support it. If it's wrong and it's going to hurt, you need the right people in office to say no. Now, if I say no and I'm against 50 people, then that's just my one no. But how do you persuade and have conversations with those other individuals that's in office to see from your point of view? That's a long plan. That's a long-term plan. Yeah. But look, when they said that they were going to approve marijuana and cannabis, right? We should have looked at the fine line to see that they had a bigger plan to offset the regular person from being able to grow. Like in California, my son tells me, hey, Mom, we can grow legally, I think 6 plants. I don't know what 6 plants are, what 6 plants do, right? But they can grow 6 plants in their yards or something of that nature without getting in trouble, right? Yeah. But Florida passed it with so many restrictions, and
that were not in the original amendment. Those were all interpretations by the legislature.
100%. So you have the wrong people that's in favor of the lobbyists to interpret it to benefit big marijuana growers or whatever they're called.
There was a home grow bill actually going through the legislature last year. Only the restrictions in it were so onerous. I mean, you had to have an inspector from the Department of Agriculture to come to your home and inspect your home to make certain it's a proper place to grow cannabis. That includes that nobody can actually see inside wherever you're growing and things of that sort. I don't think anybody wants to have inspectors come and visit their home.
That's the goal. That's the goal, to make it hard for the average person. Mm-hmm. Right, in order so they can benefit from it. That's the whole goal.
We see this same thing of making it hard just to be an everyday person. They make it hard to pay your rent. They make it hard to pay your light bill. They're making it hard to vote. hard to put
100%.
citizen initiatives on the ballot. There is no enabling or enfranchisement to our democracy. And they do all of this in the name of security. They do it all in the name of safety. And I don't feel safer. I don't feel more secure.
And they do it in regards to people just not knowing. Average person does not know what power they have. An average person does not know what rights they have. So they do it, put it out there, and if a person is not paying attention, or if a person feels like they don't have a right, or if the person feels that somebody else is in charge, what do? They just keep trying to live life and survive, not recognizing what those rights are and being empowered by rights. They don't want to put people in there that's going to make a person or an entity or people feel like they're empowered and they understand their rights. And I'm not talking about just going and saying anything, but you really understand what your rights are and you're pushing back on them. They don't want that. They want things to stay as they are so people can be uninformed and things can stay as they are because they're getting rich and people are still struggling.
Well, that's why it's time to elect new leadership. So, Robin, how can folks support you? How can they support what you got going on? Where can they go? You got a website?
VoteRobinLockett.com.
Okay, awesome.
On the screen, VoteRobinLockett.com.
And what about social medias? You got something they could go follow?
Yes, Robin Lockett. Pull up Robin Lockett. So I'm not good.
Yeah, vote Robin Lockett. There we go. We got it.
Let's not forget, guys. Money alone does not elect somebody.
Oh,
I mean,
100%.
they constantly talk about how if the person with the most amount of money is most likely the person to win.
No. Listen. Again, I harp with Nia Young. She didn't have a lot of money, right? But guess what? She had boots on the ground. She had phone bankers. So, and she had it's more than boots on the ground and phone banking. She had a story. And the community was urging and wanting something different. So that's the same with me. I have boots on the ground. I have phone bankers, but I also have a story. I have a story about the issues that I'm pushing around the lack of affordable housing, education. How do we make trade look sexy again with education, right? Mm-hmm. I graduated from a Tempe Tech, a vocational school. And the majority of kids there, they went there intentionally to create a trade, to have a trade when they graduated.
Yeah, getting
everybody's not
mechanic. Yeah, a lot of great kids come out of tech, go in the medical field, go into mechanics. Some even 100%. Go on to become engineers and get advanced degrees. You know,
and every kid is not going to go to college. They may make the decision not to go to college. They may not afford to go to college, but can we just look and just wonder something different? Because what we're finding out, if we really look at life right now, is not what they said it was.
Yeah.
And we have to create our own path. It is not what they said it is. And we can no longer follow. We have to think for ourselves and move for ourselves. And that's what I bring to this table. I am thinking outside the box.
You're actually having a big community event where folks can come see you, right? Tell us about that.
Yes. Conan's Barbecue. Mike Trigg offered to create a fundraiser for me. It's going to happen on Tuesday, August the 4th from 5 to 8. Every meal is $25, but every meal goes into the campaign. He's not going to open up his register, and you can order from the menu.
Awesome. Well, I definitely a good chance to get some great barbecue and also get a chance to come out and talk to a great community leader.
And the food is good. The food is great.
You can go and you can support your campaign by eating barbecue.
Yes. Whoa. And it's good. And the barbecue is good. Customer service is great.
Carlos, you've actually switched parties of Oprah people when you switch your diet up to support a good cause.
I was going to show up and not tell anybody.
you may have to grill up some tofu for Carlos.
And if you don't eat meat, they have vegetables. But the food, the meal will be still $25. But if you don't eat meat, because I hear some people say, hey, I don't eat meat. Okay, good. He has vegetables.
That's awesome. Well, Robin, you are definitely a breath of fresh air, as far as bringing new blood and new ideas into the legislature. And so many of the issues that we were talking about Tallahassee has to make an input on, but Congress and our federal government also, have to take action because last year on the Thanksgiving break when everybody wasn't paying attention, they snuck into the funding bill essentially a poison pill to kill Carlos's business and several other tens of thousands of business owners in this state in the hemp industry. And so Congress has to do something about that. And our next guest is actually running for United States Congress in Southern Florida, Elijah Manley. Elijah, welcome into the rotation, brother.
Hello, good to be here, and hello everybody. Hi, Rob.
Elijah, you're running in Congressional District 20, which has seen a lot of drama. Let's put it that way in this electoral cycle, including the fact that there's one woman who I happen to like because she's shorter than me, but that's about it. It's not easy to find somebody shorter than me, and Debbie is just I know people in her synagogue, including my wife's childhood friend who happens to go to the same place, and they're talking about how great she is, and I'm saying, well, she's a very nice lady. Unfortunately, she's owned by the alcohol industry, which is part of the issues we have to deal with. So you've got some powerful people going up against you for that district, including Uncle Luke of Two Live Crew and all that bit, who's got a huge publicity campaign associated with him, and yet you are striving to do something for this district. Like we should take a step back first. I'm talking about CD20. Where is CD20 so you'll know who can vote for you?
Yeah, so CD20 is entirely in Broward County and Central Broward. So if you live in anywhere between Fort Lauderdale and Sunrise, Pompano, Deerfield, or Plantation, Tamarack, you are in the district. This is a very blue district, one of the bluest in the state, if not the bluest. And if elected, I will probably be the tallest member of the South Florida delegation. Salazar is, but I know I'm taller than just about everybody else in South Florida.
How tall are you?
Elijah's about the same height as me.
Yeah.
That must be a low bar then.
So no, I met Elijah at Leadership Blue in Orlando when we have the Democratic, annual Florida Democrats get together, and it was just to see you actually in the thick of things and networking and stepping into this. To me, I've been in this since 2008, and I remember at one time being a young Democrat and saying this shit ain't right. We need to change it, and if we don't do it and step up for our generation and for the ones that come after us, who's going to do it? And then you look at where we're at with Congress right now. We have people in their 80s that are being literally wheeled by staff down to cast votes and have to put their hands on the thing. And it's like, that seems criminal in a lot of ways, and then, the governor of Florida did all this redistricting and reshuffling because he wants to make sure that his party doesn't lose power in these midterms, which caused your district to kind of get redrawn and the districts around it to get redrawn, which is why you're going up against an incumbent who represents a totally different district for this seat that nobody actually holds right now. It's like you literally have someone who's been in Congress for decades, who in many ways I say has been part of the problem. I started a petition in 2016 to have Congressman Washington Schultz removed as DNC chair. One, because I saw all the dirty tricks that were happening behind the scenes to the Bernie campaign. But two, that she could sit there and vote against, essentially using the DEA and federal dollars to raid legal marijuana states. And that just didn't sit well with me. I'm like, you should be setting the example as the leader of the Democratic Party on policy, rather than holding the status quo and being aligned with the prohibitionists. And that never have set well with me. So the fact that that's who's running against you, I'm like, oh, I already like this guy. Just he's willing to take that level of corruption on it. But Elijah, tell folks, because your campaign's getting a lot of positive traction, despite the fact that you're going up against folks that have millions of dollars in their bank account. Tell us about your platform and tell us what inspired you to run, and so we can all understand why you're picking up so much traction as well.
Yeah, well, the original plan was not to do this. It was to go make some money, maybe consider law school. But watching, Donald Trump come back into the White House and our party not having any direction, any real true leadership, I decided to put all of that on hold and fight for the community that I love. And as a teacher, a middle school teacher, this is something so personal to me, making sure our young people and our students, they have a future that's worth living in, and I want to fight for that future. So this campaign has been through several eras. When I got in it, it was a completely different look and feel. It was me versus the incumbent at the time, Sheila McCormick, who you all know what happened there with all the fraud charges and potential exposure from Congress. And then there was the indictment, and then the new era with the redistricting. So we've been kind of thrown like side to side in the raft, but we're still on the boat. I got into this fight because I believe that the Democratic Party can be bolder and better, and we don't have to, settle for mediocrity or politicians who are mediocre. And that is exactly who I'm running against now. Somebody who has been in Congress since 2005, been in political office since before I was born in 1992, and has not much to show for it. I mean, this is somebody who has been the head of the DNC, who is part of the reason why we're in this problem that we're seeing right now with Donald Trump, because she couldn't keep her hands off the primary and say what people can say what they want to say. But when some of our voters are staying home because the party is putting his finger on the scales, that is a problem. And he is part of the reason why we have Donald Trump in office now.
Yeah.
This is not someone that should be in Congress. And this is somebody who is owned, like you said, by every industry, from you name it, from APAC to sugar to the oil industry to alcohol. And this is somebody that has lobbied against medical marijuana in the state of Florida repeatedly. And she was one of the biggest opponents of medical marijuana in the state. And when asked about it, she said she was asking people to give her money in order for her to change her views, which this is somebody who is like rotten to the core. So we have a chance to get her out this in August to remove this carpetbagger from our district.
Well, that's you have been just going at party corruption the whole time you've been running. I mean, the sitting rep who holds the district seat right now is being investigated for COVID PPP loan fraud. And then you were calling that out. I mean, I remember seeing you on the campaign trail, just like, hey, this isn't right. I mean, look at this person. They're taking a professional picture with a ring they bought with our stolen tax dollars. That's wild. And then here the governor comes along, redistrict is the district. Now you're in race against literally the most corrupt Democrat we could probably label in all of this. And it doesn't make any friends with the establishment politics, right? Because we know that there are corporate masters that own both parties, and they definitely don't own you. And that's a problem for them. So, I mean, how do you feel about stepping into this role? I mean, we see it. There are some great luminaries all around Congress that are great young folks like Maxwell Frost, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that have said, you know what, I don't give a fuck. I'm not owned. I'm going to work my ass off. I'm going to get in this office and make it happen. So, where do you find Gary, what's the word y'all use? Chutzpah. Right? Where do you find a chutzpah to get up there and say, you know what, fuck this corrupt system. I'm going to do what I got to do and do what's right for my community.
Well, it comes from, lived experience. Everyone likes to talk about experience. That's Debbie Wasserman Schultz. That's her closing argument in the campaign is, I have clout and experience and no one else does. And I throw that right back on her. I have experience too. It's not the experience of being on Capitol Hill, being treated like one of the most powerful people in the world, which members of Congress are little gods. I come from a background where I had to grow up facing adversity, homelessness, and poverty. And that is experience that is absent from Capitol Hill that we could benefit from when we're talking about what programs to cut, or we're talking about, Medicaid and Medicare and SNAP benefits, which are being decimated by the Trump administration. You need people that understand how it's going to hit their districts and how it's going to impact their people. And, the idea that we have to continue with the same old nonsense all the time is just not working for people. And that is why we're seeing people knock people off all across the country, because people are sick and tired of the status quo. And there's a corrupt system up in there. And people are going to say, oh, you're young, you're this and you're that, and we have amazing young people that serve in Congress. We have Maxwell Frost, who was the first Gen Z member of Congress. He's doing a pretty good job. You have AOC. You have all these other people that are in there that are doing incredible job and work. Debbie Wasserman Schultz herself, when she first got into office was 25 years old. And so, I reject the idea that because somebody's young, that they don't have what it takes. It's supposed to be a representative democracy. And when you have millennials and Gen Z about 30% of the voting population, we deserve to have representation in government. And it shouldn't just be this ideal of somebody that has this, this law degree or that have been in office forever and that has all this money and established. We need the people that come from the bottom.
Well, I want to do something a little different here. We always talk about these issues that we face at different levels. Robin, as a state representative, you're going to have to, we talk about preemption on local government, what Tallahassee does, but what Washington, D.C. does affects us here in Florida. So do you have a question for Elijah as a future state rep to a future congressperson?
Hi, Elijah. Nice meeting you. And you are in an interesting race. I want you to speak more because when you talk about the corruption and so forth, I was just typing in the chat. Life experience, telling your story and life experience holds a lot in regards to doing the right thing for the people, because you have the pulse of the people, and versus relying on money, and you end up being held by corporations. What would be your how has that worked for you in regards to community engagement and getting the people behind you?
Yeah, so it allows, so when I started the campaign, I wasn't sure how successful it was going to be or how it was going to blow up. I didn't know. I got in a race, things started to go pretty good. We raised nearly $1.2 million now for the campaign, 100% of it from human being, people that breathe air and oxygen. And it's about 25,000 people that chipped in to the campaign. All my opponents, corporations and PACs and people who don't, non-living organisms donating to their campaigns. For me, I think this is about accountability. It's about who do you answer to? And at the end of the day, for me and my campaign, I try to make it as accessible and as accountable to the community, the people that I'm looking to represent and serve in office. And in our district, this is a district that has been ignored for decades. Ignored, taken advantage of. Vultures have chopped that and picked at it. Pulling from the they need people that's fighting for them. They need people that's looking out for them. And so I do my best to be as accountable to the people in the community. Talk about the issues they care about. Show up in the community, not just for photo ops and taking pictures, but to be there for the people who need the help the most. And these people here in this district, they're looking for champions that are going to deliver for them, deliver results for them, because they're used to the politician that makes the promises that don't show up. And when you're not bought out by all the big corporations and the special interests, you're able to do that. You're able to listen to people. You're able to advocate for people, even if it's small issues or something that may seem small but is big. When you're not funded by the super PAC or the special interest group, you're able to listen to people, and that's what's been very helpful to my campaign. Is I'm not bought. Nobody has bought me. I'm not for sale. And that is the type of politician that I think we need.
So basically, you're not in favor of the concept where that Citizens United brought out, saying that corporations have free speech themselves as well, because the money that they give to campaigns is not the same thing as the money that your future constituents would be giving to you. The motivation is entirely different. One is about taking care of your community, and the other is taking care of special interests.
Well, Gary, something that was interesting to me, I had only ran, state campaigns, but when I first ran a congressional campaign as a campaign manager in 2016, discovering that corporations can't write checks to federal campaigns, but in the state of Florida, a business can write a check to a candidate. Robin's shaking her head because she knows. And so, Elijah, the fact that you've raised $1 million outside of PAC money. I mean, I know people who can't raise $1 million for their church, $1 million for, to save the puppies, $1 million to save the whales. Here you are raising $1 million to say, look, I'm going to go up to Washington, D.C. and do things differently for our community and for this state. And I mean, that's impressive in itself. But, the election day's coming up, man. What are we, just less than 3 weeks away. And so, how can folks get out there to support what you got going on, but buy into your campaign and uplift you to get over the hump on this primary.
I would say we need people to phone bank. That's one of the things people can do from home if they can't donate. And yes, we do still need donations. Debbie has 3 million, and she has much more than I have. But people power is how it happens. Money doesn't always win. A lot of people have had a lot of money across the country, and they have gotten knocked out. What's going to be what makes the decision, and the people who make the calls, who make the text to voters, who knock on the doors, and we need all of that. So if you go to ElijahManley.com, you could pitch in, you could make calls, 100 calls from home. You can make some texts to voters, and you can knock on doors if you live close by. But spreading that word to people, that's the best way to help out.
Appreciate that, man. Listen, when you get into Congress, there are some key things we can definitely use some help on. We've seen this Schedule 3 status that the Trump administration has really done. But the truth is that cannabis in and of itself should have never been on the Controlled Substances Act. I mean, if you go all the way back to the 1930s, you even see the American Medical Association saying, why are y'all making this illegal? It's silly. And then we've seen, 90 years of lies around this plant. And what we've seen as well is the over-criminalization of Black and Latino communities, of immigrant communities. We've seen, life-saving medical research pigeonholed, denied, not being able to get done. And now, like we were saying, if they don't do something in Congress by November, Carlos will be out of business by law, essentially. So there is so much more work to get done. And just wanted to hear some of your thoughts around cannabis policy, because we have the MORE Act in Congress that will do that will remove this from the Controlled Substances Act. Just wanted to get your kind of pulse as to how you feel and what policy we could have around cannabis to improve public safety and safe access for people.
Yeah, well, I think that's going to be pretty good legislation right there. But a lot of it the president can do, and not just Donald Trump, but Joe Biden. He had the power to make some here as well, and he did not use his power. And I'm disappointed in that. So when we do get a Democratic president again, if we're allowed to have a president outside of this party again, then that should be the first priority for them. But in Congress, with the majority, we need to move quick too. And so I think that's the first thing we need to do. We also need to have some form of reparation to people that have been kind of got the short end of the stick. Because now we're looking around and we see all of these people making lots of money with their corporations off of marijuana. You former Speaker of the House, John Boehner, now was a chief proponent of locking people up for it. Now making a lot of money, and that seems to be the deal. People are making money, but the people who were the entrepreneurs and the innovators on the street, those people are sitting behind bars. So we need to get people out of prison for this. Pay them back, wipe their records clean. I think that's going to be a great place to start too, because those people were innovators. They were not criminals. They were innovators, and now they're sitting behind bars, or their whole lives have been taken away for something that John Boehner can do now.
And yet
that's wild. Like, I want to go back to that for a second. The Speaker of the House, John Boehner, he was Speaker of the House, Republican when Obama was president. Prohibitionist, supported the status quo, supported locking people up for weed, is now a lobbyist for big cannabis. And just making money off of weed money while people are still sitting in jail for trying to pay their bills with weed money. Yep. That's wild. Wow. That's wild. This is America.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And yet you don't take any AIPAC money, and don't ask me for any because I don't have any.
Gary, we understand you're not one of them folks. We understand that there are factions within different groups of people, and there's one faction that feels a certain way about certain policies. Other folks are more pro-working class. We know you're in the working class side, brother.
And I also cannot get you any GEO money either.
I cannot stop thinking about the fact that you raised $1 million outside of PAC money. And that's
1.2.
1.2.
Put some respect on that.
Excuse me, some respect on the 0.2. Thank you, Robin. I've got the purposes of the show. There's a certain purpose here, and we want to get to know you guys. We want to get to know your cannabis policy, but let's kind of get away from that for a second. Because we're a struggling fucking nonprofit, dude. Like, you got any tips on how to raise money?
It's hard these days. It's very hard. I will tell you, it's extremely hard. I say that the power of the network is very powerful.
Cool.
One person can turn into two. Two people can turn into 10, and it can be like a chain reaction. And I tell people never think that one or two is too little. People talk, and you get your message out there, and it's like roots. You plant the roots. In the practical sense, meeting people where they are, I think is the best way of raising money. People are, people always say, you get on the phone and you call people. You do some of that as well, but a lot of it is it's digital media. It's talking to people where they are, when people are, on Facebook and they see it, or they are, they're watching a video and they see the ad or the video pop up. Because people have to have other ways to get access to information when they're not specifically looking for it or paying attention to it. If they are hardworking and they're working 2 or 3 jobs, and they go on Facebook and they see something they like or they're interested in, or something with a shared mission, they might pop the $10, out, or $25 out for it.
Where was the
biggest
tipping
problem we
point?
have right now is that there's constantly issues being brought up that really have nothing to do with the actual election and things of that sort. But I have to get this out of the way just to make certain that we're certain about this. Are you now, or have you ever been, a member of the Communist Party?
No.
This McCarthy.
There's a Communist Party.
Oh my God.
See, you're too young to even hear that statement, but I remember that very, very clearly when I was younger, that they were still asking all those questions. And they're actually bringing them up now, even though it has absolutely nothing to do with the things that affect Americans right now.
And it's scary thing, like in Florida, in our law, it's still prohibited for someone who's a member of a communist party or a communist to hold public office. So they may start enforcing that and just labeling people. We hope not. But there's some old laws on the books, both federally and on a state level, that need to be kind of cleaned up. We have a lot of old laws that are not really.
And let's be clear, Gary it says a lot in jest around this last couple of weeks, but it's literally, it's like, hey, we're laughing because we're so scared. They're literally, the arguments that we're seeing across the aisle and their policies are failing so badly under this current administration that when pro-working family candidates like you, Elijah, like Robin, come and step up to run for office, if you advocate for anything that's pro-working people, whether it's rent stabilization or increasing the minimum wage or worker protections or just supporting, unions, they attempt to label you a communist. And I mean, like, that's just not communism. It's, we believe in democracy. We believe in small business owners like Carlos being able to make their money. And we're against the oligarchy. We're against the monopolistic system that we see. We're against crony capitalism. There are thriving businesses throughout the various communities, whether it's the thriving East Tampa community businesses or in Ybor City, or it's the businesses that you represent in your neighborhoods down in South Florida, Elijah. And I just don't understand this whole red scare that we're seeing. Just because something is pro-working people, it's all of a sudden communism. And then to see it propped up by voters, I'm like, dude, I look at social media, people who make $50,000 a year are upset because, we want to raise the minimum wage. And I'm just like,
they believe that narrative. They believe that narrative.
Yeah, by oligarchs. So Elijah, how do we continue to fight that, man? I mean, you're going to step up into Congress, which is like a totally different arena. I mean, I've been up there for about 7 years now in DC, and it's just mind-boggling, the level of wealth, the level of power, and you're stepping into this role. I'm just, I just want to know, what are your thoughts on this? Because you got some really, big shoes to fill, in the sense that it's been an empty suit up there in your district for so long. You have people enriching themselves rather than bringing the money back home, and now you're going up against literally the establishment if you had to embody it in person. So I'm just like, how do you feel about that, man?
I mean, I feel like it's possible the Goliaths can fall, and they are. And if they're not the ones that, that's right. And the ones that don't fall this year, they will fall in 2028. We're coming. We're cleaning up our party, and I want to give people a reason to believe in our democracy again, a reason to believe in our party again. And so going up there in DC, I think there's going to be a lot of people that share these ideas, and it's going to be a whole fight, a whole war, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that want to keep the gravy train moving exactly the way it is without any
That's exactly
interruption.
what it is.
We got to turn it upside down.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And seats are for people. One would think that now they say that, hey, you have to be an attorney to create legislature or something of that nature. But no, it's the regular folks that's going to have an ear to the community and move things for the community. Right?
Robin, I guarantee you, if we had a congressional draft and we drafted school teachers like Elijah, and we drafted, community organizers like yourself, and we drafted, small business owners like Carlos, and public administrators, public health experts like Gary. We put people up in Tallahassee to just everyday working people.
Yes.
This country's public policy would change drastically.
100%.
It would,
100%.
we wouldn't be prioritizing, some of the things we're prioritizing. I mean, like drilling in protected wetlands. We'd be worried about clean groundwater. We'd be worried about crumbling infrastructure. I mean, I saw a video the other day of you to get to New York. If folks haven't driven to Manhattan, one, it's like $16 just to get onto that bridge, from wherever you're coming from. And then I saw the bridge just dropped on somebody's car the other day, just collapsed.
Wow.
And I think every time I drive over the Chesapeake in Maryland, I'm like, oh my God, I hope the guy who got this, didn't get the contract because his daddy knew a second.
Yeah.
And every time I'm stopped at a stoplight under an overpass, I'm like, man, I hope this guy didn't get a C in engineering and had a politically connected contract. And so these are the things that keep me up at night. And it's our members of Congress like you, Elijah, and I'm speaking that into fruition, that are going to make those decisions of fixing our crumbling infrastructure or enriching their pockets and their campaign dollars.
And I ask him a question.
Yeah, I just want to say it makes me proud to know that you are doing the work by raising the money yourself from the community and by everyday folks. My question was, real quick, is where was the tipping point, man? Because like Carlos saying, we're struggling nonprofit. We've been at this a decade. I know you've been at this couple of, this ain't your first rodeo. You've ran before. So like, where was the tipping point? Was it like month 3 of this new campaign? Was it month 6? Was it last week? When did you, when it started to really like, oh wow, we're building the machine and it's moving on its own?
I would say it comes in waves. Like at the beginning, it was, a big jump. Then it died down month. It kept going down and kept going down. And I was like, okay. And then there was a little spike at the beginning of the year when, all the progressives started winning across the country. Then it died down, redistricting, it died down. And then, it spiked back up again. And I think that's how it's going to be even for nonprofits with fundraising. It's going to come in waves. And I say not to think it goes down when it goes down. I don't think of it, as a let's think of it as temporarily away from their screens. That's how I think of it. And when they come back, they'll want to donate. And so I would just say it's waves. And for me, I think the tipping point is usually, for politics, usually when it gets closer to the election, people pay attention. We have one of the last primaries. So it's very hard, very hard to do it. But people are paying attention now. But think of it as waves. You're going to have one, quarter that's really good, one quarter that's in the gutter, good, in the gutter, good, but you just keep pushing and try to make those bad quarters as small as possible.
Cool. Robin, go ahead with your question.
So one of the biggest issues on my platform is about education, and education in regards to kids being in school and us bringing trade back. I graduated from a high school, Tampa Bay Tech, and it was a trade school back in the day. It still is. It's turned Magna and something else. But with that trade, we had plumbing, EVAC, construction, architect. A lot of the trades you didn't have to attend college. Yeah. So my fight will be how do we bring trades into having kids prepared for trades. I have an idea of where they're going, right? They get the training while they're in school with the apprenticeship, with the certification and so forth. And then when they graduate, they're either an employee or an employer. They have that choice, but they've gone through everything that they need to. But we have to make it sexy again, have that conversation. How do you feel in regards to trades and education and that system being recreated, because it was done once? But how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think we need to put the trades back in the schools. I think they have I'm trying to think of a word here. Standardized.
Standardized. Yes. Yes.
They standardized our schools in a sense that they're preparing the kids for college. And don't get me wrong, like we need kids to be prepared for college, but not everybody wants to go. I remember when I was growing up in school, we had wood shop. We had wood shop in one quarter. You know how to make some things. You know how to deal with wood, and you know, we had construction class where you learn how to build. You know, nothing big, but you build things. We redid the cafeteria window, and we made it really beautiful, different types of glass, and all the students were able to do this type of stuff. In high school, I got my certification, Adobe Certified Associate. I got some graphic design. We had coding courses for kids to learn coding and get certifications. Some of those kids in my class went on to work for Google, Microsoft, get good jobs. I feel like we put too much emphasis on preparing kids for college, and that should be the main focus. It should be workforce, because most people you preparing for college, they can't get no job anyways after that. Like, a 4-year degree is hard. Send people out there. I took a tour of the Fort Lauderdale airport, and they were telling me they need welders for some of those good paying jobs. A lot of the young people, a lot of the workers are older and they're ready to retire, but there's no one coming in for those jobs. So I think it should be a requirement, just like they have the core classes, and then you have your electives. There should be some more requirements for some of those skills related training, financial literacy as well, because they don't teach that to kids. You need your core history, math, reading, writing, but you also need to be able to have hard skills for when you become an adult. You know, financial literacy, you know, how to write a check. I know most people ain't writing a check anymore, but still, I forgot how to write a check. I had to write one for my qualifying fee, and I have no idea what I was doing. I was like, what is this?
Yeah, unfortunately, one of the things that has knocked down the possibility of that thing happening in the past is that the private prison industry is still interested in making certain that the school to prison pipeline is kept intact. And those are the kind of things that are needed to keep that from happening. So that's your fight right there.
And that's a point that needs to be brought up a lot more in politics. The private prisons, and they need the customers. They need prisoners. The customers are the government and the schools. Fail a kid, they don't go off to college, they don't get a good job, they don't have opportunity. They're going to end up in prison. The state will have a contract with a private prison, and then those people end up working for free or virtually free in those prisons. I think that's the wrong way to do it. I'm not a fan of private prisons at all. I think they should be done with. But you made a good point, Robin. I think we need those programs restored to our schools. They got rid of the wood shop, which was my favorite class. Make all types of cute things. Bring those programs back and fund the Department of Education and fund our schools.
Right. I'll be calling you when you get in office. Contact.
I know for a fact that what you all both said today is so true. One of the things that struck me was learning that the average age of a plumber, like the median age of an expert plumber, is in their 50s now. People want to retire by the time they hit their 60s. So there is such a big trade for plumbing, for HVAC, for just network infrastructure. I mean, there's these companies wanting to build these data centers. You got to know how to put together networks. There is highly skilled jobs, and in this idea that there is unskilled labor that doesn't need to be paid is ludicrous to me, because they have created a system to where we have so many people who have education, who can't get jobs, who still are indentured into student loan debt into the society, and no relief is coming. And then now they want to put a cap on being able to go back to school and get additional funding. They want to pick and choose. If you're going to want to be a nurse, we're not going to let you get so much X dollars in student loans. And it's like we need more than just doctors and lawyers in this society. And even then, there's a stratification of doctors and lawyers in American society. There's what I like to call peasant doctors, where there are doctors who live paycheck to paycheck, who work in ERs, who only, serve working folks. And they themselves are 1 or 2 paychecks away from being foreclosed on themselves. And then there are other doctors that make $20 million a year and go out there and jet set around the world and write a couple of papers here and there. And so there's a big stratification. There are lawyers in this society that have billboards all over the city struggling to get those clients. And then there are others that have multi-billion-dollar firms that represent multi-billion and trillion-dollar interests. So American society sells you on this hope when you're in school in the K-12 system that, hey, if you go off to college and you do what you need to do and you study hard, it'll pay off at the end. And what I see right now is that I've been grinding in my own career for over a decade. And I couldn't get any respect on my check even here in the Sunshine State. I had to go up to DC because here in Florida, I was making $40K. And in DC, it's like, we got great job opportunities. Maryland is one of the best employments in the country right now, employment rates. But even then, all the same struggles that I see us experience politically here, we have in other states, regardless of what party's in power. So there are systemic issues in American society 100%. That we need grassroots legislators like yourselves to get up there and fix. We need people with everyday experience. We need more middle school teachers in Congress, Elijah. So let's get you up there, man. We need more community activists to roll up their sleeves in the State House, Robin. So let's get you up there. And if folks are not registered to vote, these are the type of things that matter. This is why we say you need to register to vote, because when the time comes, only the people registered to vote can put in these great people in office that are going to make a difference. And if you are going to vote by mail, you got to pay attention because the governor changed the law. You got to request your ballot every single election now. So again, early voting is getting ready to start, where you can go to like your local library or your local early voting site, check out your supervisor of elections, find out where you can go vote. And when the early voting starts, cast your ballots. Elijah, when does early vote happen here in Florida for us? When do we kick it off? Next weekend, right?
It starts August 8th, next weekend. Yeah.
August 8th.
All right, so here we are, folks. You heard it. You don't wait till election day because you probably might have to work. You might pop a tire. Your car might not start that day. So get your ballot in early. And if you have a vote by mail ballot, send it back. And then, of course, if you want to vote by mail and you're not getting a ballot, you can request it. Just it ain't going to come for this primary, but we can get them for the general. And Elijah, once you get through this primary, how's the general looking, man? Is that going to be a fight, or is your district one of those kind of like slam dunks? If you win this, it's a wrap. Slam dunk. All right. So this is it. August 16th to August 18th. Tuesday, August 18th is the granddaddy of them all. It's the primary here in Florida. It's going to make all the difference in the world. So we're looking forward to being able to support you. Carlos, why don't you just show them banners one more time? Elijah, tell the folks where they can get involved on your campaign again.
Yep. ElijahManley.com. ElijahManley.com.
And follow him on social media, the real Elijah Manley. All right. Well, with all of that, team, Elijah, Robin, thank you for joining us. We're going to jump right into the normal news. All right. So at the top of the news, there we go. Carlos is adjusting for us here. Boom. All right. Now
we are semi-professional here.
Man, look, I think the biggest news story out of all of this, and this is the opportunity for us as American people to make a difference. Tell your senator to support the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act. Senate Democrats have reintroduced comprehensive legislation to repeal federal marijuana prohibition, repair the harms it's done to marginalized communities, and create sensible regulatory structures. Now, this bill, the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act, Senate Bill 5022, removes cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act entirely. I mean, I think that is important in itself just to think about. It's not Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3, Schedule 4. There is no schedule. It will remove it. It will end the threat of federal prosecution for possession of and licensed commercial activity of cannabis. It allows states to implement their own cannabis policies free of federal interference. So if you live in a state like Idaho that wants to stay a prohibitionist state, it allows the states to maintain their autonomy. And it just ends these federal charges, which is great. It also eliminates many of the problems that the legal cannabis markets face, including the lack of access to financial services, the inability to deduct standard business expenses when they file their federal taxes, and the lack of uniform national regulatory standards and guidelines. This will also direct funding to reinvest in communities that have been disproportionately impacted by prohibition and help improve the diversity and inclusion among licensed operators in the regulated markets. So tell your senators to vote for it. I hear Gary rustling that wrapper for them edibles. They must be good, Gary. Where are they from? Michigan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, Japan.
Japan. Oh man. That would be, cannabis is highly illegal in Japan, surprisingly enough. So for some reason, island countries, unless their proximity to the U.S. is to get good bud. I know Cuba didn't have great bud. Dominican Republic had great Miami bud. So it's interesting to see how different countries have access to it. The Bahamas, not the greatest in the world. So, but again, right. In Southeast Asia, the proximity to Thailand with all the great bud that they're growing makes a big difference in all of it. So, but again, as I was saying, we're going to drop the link here in the comments for folks. So if you click the link, it'll take you to where you can send an email to your United States Senator and of course tell them to support the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act. So moving on with the news, and a good segue, I had said Michigan, because I know we were talking with both Gary and I have been to Michigan recently because they have great quality bud and it's for an affordable price. But Michigan Supreme Court recently ruled in the case, and they found that marijuana odor is insufficient cause for a motor vehicle search. Police cannot engage in warrantless searches of motor vehicles based solely upon the smell of marijuana alone, even in instances where the occupants are under 21 years of age, according to a decision by the Marijuana Supreme Court. This decision overturns a lower court ruling determining that such searches were valid because state law only legalizes possession for adults. In a 5-2 decision, the majority of the Supreme Court disagreed and opined that cannabis possession by those under 21 is a civil infraction, not a crime. And therefore, in the case where the trooper had probable cause to believe that the vehicle contained a small amount of marijuana, which is a civil infraction, but not that the vehicle contained evidence of a crime, this probable cause was insufficient to support a warrantless search under the automobile exception, the majority rule. And that trooper smelled marijuana was also insufficient, alone or combined with a passenger statement indicating that he may have had a small amount to establish probable cause to believe that a criminal amount of marijuana was present in the car. Now, courts in several other states where cannabis is legal for medical or adult use purposes have already ruled a similar determination as the odor of marijuana, absent of other crimes, does not provide probable cause to justify a search. That includes Delaware, Illinois, Maryland, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, and Vermont. Now, granted, we got 25 adult use states. We got 41 medical states, and I only counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 7 states. So we got a lot more work to do on this policy. This is something that we can address at the legislative level. We've had court cases here in Hillsborough County, in Florida, around issues around smell, probable cause. So we'll see how this shakes out for us locally. But great news coming out of Michigan. Now,
by the way, this is the empty package of a Michigan product. I do not intend to actually test that rule when I head out to Detroit this next week.
Well, Gary, this next story then will be interesting to you. A study, according to observational data published in the Journal of Biomedicine, shows that use of THC-infused edibles are associated with improvements in lower back pain. So how's your back feel after popping those Michigan edibles?
I haven't felt my back in weeks.
Well, investigators affiliated with the University of Colorado at Boulder assessed the efficacy of state licensed use adult edible cannabis products on pain intensity in 243 participants with chronic lower back pain. and researchers reported that participants experienced less pain on the days they consumed THC-infused products as compared to days where they did not. Now, participants who consumed edible products dominant in CBD but not THC did not report similar improvements. So that is an interesting thing that, because there's a lot of great CBD dominant products that help with certain things. But when it came to the chronic lower back pain, the THC infused edibles were superior. Now, data published in the Journal of the American Medical Association reports that nearly 1 in 3 patients with chronic pain use cannabis as an analgesic agent, and many of those who do substitute it in place of opioids. So we got a lot more work to do on educating lawmakers on the fact that opioid addiction, opioid replacement, is definitely something that cannabis can help with. And of course, THC-infused edibles are superior to the CBD-dominant ones when it comes to chronic pain. Now, let's talk a little bit about intoxication, because there is always the news when you're talking to politicians about what about all these drug drivers on the road? And oh my God, if we legalize pot, everybody's going to get high and dry. And that's going to be a major public safety issue. Now, this study coming out of Virginia from data published in Accident Analysis and Prevention Journal says that drivers increase their speed following the use of alcohol while they reduce their speed following the use of cannabis. And this is an assessment based on real-world driving performance. Researchers at Virginia Tech's Transportation Institute and the Transportation Research Center assessed real-world driving performance in a cohort of 41 participants. Participants drove personal vehicles equipped with data acquisition systems that recorded their location, their kinematics, which are how the vehicle accelerates, its motion, its velocity, and video data. And the substance use was assessed through pre-driving self-reporting surveys, periodic breathalyzers, and saliva tests, and allowing trips to be categorized as substance negative, alcohol only, cannabis only, and polysubstance, which is alcohol and cannabis. And consistent with the driving simulator data, the participants who consumed cannabis engaged in compensatory driving behavior. Researchers reported that alcohol-involved trips showed increased proportions of speeding on primary and secondary roads, suggesting impaired judgment or compromised longitudinal vehicle control. In contrast, cannabis-positive trips had a speeding proportions closely aligned with baseline conditions, likely indicating habituation or compensatory driving behaviors. The study's authors concluded, this study marks a significant advancement in impaired driving research by conducting the first large-scale naturalistic analysis of cannabis, alcohol, and their combined use in real-world driving contexts. Overall, this study contributes valuable real-world evidence to a field that has long relied heavily on experimental paradigms. It offers early estimates of how cannabis and polysubstance use may affect driving behavior and begin to bridge the gap between tightly controlled experimental studies and the complexity of real-world behavior. As cannabis legalization continues to expand and polysubstance use becomes increasingly common, efforts like this will be essential in shaping more informed, evidence-based traffic safety policies and public health strategies. Wow, that's a lot. Now, moving on to the final part of the news and part of the news story, I think, which is important for folks to realize, is that the federal government regularly does surveys on, use rates and who's utilizing cannabis. And I thought that the most recent federal survey, which is conducted by the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, showed that marijuana use by teens and young adults is continuing its steady decline. According to the latest report by the agency, the percentage of adolescents, those are people aged 12 to 17, and young adults, people 18 to 25, reporting the past month and past year cannabis use is falling. Specifically, past month cannabis use fell 22% among teens between 2022 and 2025. Past year use fell 25% during this same period. The agency also reported that far fewer teens are initiating cannabis use. Among young adults, past month marijuana use fell 10% between 2022 and 2025. The percentage of those reporting any cannabis use the past year fell 12%. Now, adolescents aged 12 to 17 and young adults aged 18 to 25 continue to show these downward and stable trends in most behavioral health indicators over the past 5 years, according to the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary, Christopher D. Carroll. And all in all, Self-reported marijuana use among those as ages 26 and older has actually increased, particularly among older adults. Now, what does this mean? This means that the alarmists that claim that adult use legalization, that recreational cannabis laws are linked with greater marijuana use by the kids, by the teens, and that's not backed by the government data. These findings ought to reassure lawmakers that cannabis access can be legally regulated in a manner that's safe, effective, and does not inadvertently impact young people's habits. Shocker that when you take cannabis and you put it in a regulated market and you make sure that people have to be 21 and up. I mean, I'm looking at the window here. Carlos has it in the window, 21 and up only. Just makes sense that the young people are not going to be using it, that you got to be an adult, and that regulation works a lot better because, of course, people in the legacy market aren't asking for IDs before someone comes to buy bud from them. So there's a lot to be said about safety and efficacy of cannabis, but all in all, the data continues to show that this is a safe, affordable product. And we need lawmakers to pay attention to that, which is why we put such an emphasis on inviting candidates onto the show. We put such an emphasis on politicians coming on here and holding them accountable for how they feel, asking these questions, and wanting to inform voters. So if a politician hasn't come on the rotation, you should reach out to them, tell them, hey, have you seen this show? It's freaking awesome. And Carlos, Gary, Kano, they're out there asking the hard questions. They're out there coaching politicians and teaching them stuff. And reading the news each and every week, you can do really good by it. And we pick up traction. But the biggest thing that you can do if you're watching, hit that like button, hit subscribe. We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. You can visit us at suncoastnormal.org and become a member. Your ability to support what we do here at Suncoast Normal, for well over the past decade. We've been around since 2014, and we're continuing to rock and shock and do what we can in the public policy sector. Makes all the difference in the world for our members. You can donate. You can visit our website, whether you can drop $5, $10, $15, spend $25 to become a member, which gives you a membership pin, membership card, and awesome discounts here at Chillum. And of course, free admission to the awesome events that we do, whether that's our member sesh, whether that's our Halloween parties, our Best Blunt in the Bay rolling competitions we do annually. But all in all, we're going to continue to fight for you until we have a system which provides safe and affordable access to every single consumer.
And subscribing to our YouTube channel is a great way to support us. Where is it? I'm trying to get the preset going for me.
There you go.
And fun and exciting news. We're, expanding our reach. We're actually on kick.com right now. So if you're, it's my understanding that on that platform, even though there are rules on what you can put out there, it's not necessarily like a shadow banning platform or anything like that.
That's pretty cool.
So following us on there will make sure that you get to see everything, and we don't give a fuck about Mark Zuckerberg or what YouTube wants us to do or anything like that.
Speaking of shadow banning, our IG got banned, and so we have a new IG.
Boom.
So it's Suncoast_normal. So you can hit us up and follow us on Instagram. Pay attention to the great guests. We have great guests that lined up for you for the next few weeks. We got some folks that are running for the Florida State Senate coming on next week, and then we have Angie Nixon, who's running to be our United States Senator.
Very, very excited about that.
Coming up the following week. So we got some big name guests, big name candidates. Thank you to Elijah running down there in Florida's 20th Congressional District for joining us today. Thank you to our friend of the show who's been on before many times, Robert Lockett, who's running to be our state representative here in East Tampa and Ybor City. So I'm pretty excited for what we got going on. And we just lost Gary from the show. So, Carlos,
My bad.
It's all good. We are going to close this out.
He really wanted us to show this.
Oh, look at Gary with Debbie Wasserman shows.
Yeah, that
was
my fault kicking him out. I'm sorry, Gary.
That's too funny. That's too funny.
But yeah, maybe he'll come back in.
No, it's okay. I mean, all in all, Gary, I love Gary as our political director because he is fearless. He doesn't take no for an answer. He's always out there with the politicians, cornering them, asking them the hard questions, and getting picks with them. As you just saw, Gary had a pick with Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who Elijah's running against. So if you had to make a decision in this race, folks, that's where you got a choice between a middle school teacher who's doing it grassroots style, or from someone who has been the epitome of establishment politics. That so many people
if I may, if you're confused on who to vote for, if they're like younger and taller than Gary, that's typically a good bet.
Younger
Debbie
and
Wasserman
taller than
Schultz, shorter than me.
There you go. There you go. Gary could do some great political ads. That'd be awesome.
Sorry, I kicked you out there, Gary. I'm happy you came back in. Sorry about that.
Obviously, you did that so you can go ahead and sneak that picture in, which was cool.
Well, look, man, I'm glad the show went well today. I know that there were a lot of folks that were making comments on social media throughout the week. They kind of wanted to come online and derail the show with talking about, foreign policy and all these other things. And I'm just like, I'm glad today we stay focused on the issues. Is like, look, cannabis policy is still messed up for millions of consumers in this country, whether it's here in the state of Florida, whether it's in other states. I mean, we don't have worker protections in every legal state. We don't have parental rights protections. We don't have an end to medical discrimination. And even still, cannabis still remains a controlled substance at the federal level. So we need to continue to just stay based on these policies when politicians come on the show and hold them to that. I know that there's so many other important things, and I want those other things, but this ain't necessarily the platform for it. This ain't the show. This show remains what it has been. I know we've even gotten some criticism over the years. People feel like there's been mission drift, but when we do have politicians come on the show, we stick to the issues. The issues are the same. How do you feel about cannabis policy? These are the issues we keep pushing for. Will you champion them? And I'm glad we had Robin come on today, so you can see that even when someone isn't a cannabis user, they're still willing to listen. And that's something that's important.
So what are people saying? They're saying that
Well, I know some people wanted to get into the whole the war over there in the Middle East issues with Elijah's race is running for Congress on social media, and I was just like, just not going to dive into that today. It's not that that's not important. It's that that's just not what this show is, right? And I mean, if we want to have that discussion and we want to talk about it, I'm more than happy to. But all in all, that just ain't the topic of the guest for the show. Gary, maybe you can line up some folks. We could talk about that and dive into the show. I mean, there's a lot to be going on, but it's hard for me to even dive into that issue without wanting to spark up and lean back and smoke a blunt, because it's so sad to see our tax dollars go overseas. It's sad to see people being killed. It's sad to see this whole society that we've devolved into of just hyper partisanness, and everybody gets so riled up about issues. And a lot of people get riled up about shit they're not even experts on or have real life experience. They heard something that we're able to trigger them emotionally. And I mean, for us, we want to stick to the facts. We want to stick to what's reality. And we want to continue to bring folks great news each and every week and great guests and great candidates. So if you support that, hit that like and subscribe button, support the rotation. Join us next week as we have Michelle Rayner jumping into rotation, who's running for the Florida State Senate. And the following week with Angie Nixon, who's running for United States Senator. And then we're going to have a debrief on the following week on the primaries, just to see how everything shakes out on both the Republican and Democratic side. I'm pretty excited to have that bipartisan debrief on the show. It's going to be pretty cool to have some great guests. And then, we're going to have more folks coming on who are local candidates. We got city elections in Tampa. People are going to be running for mayor and city council coming on the show and county commission in the coming weeks and months. So pretty excited. But of course, if you have any cannabis celebrities, if you have local cannabis influencers that you want to see on the show, tell them about the rotation. Share a link, send it to them, and we'll get them on the show. Gary, what's your final thoughts for the day?
Well, Matt, the welder, I've given up on you.
Carlos hasn't. Carlos is going to vote for him in the primaries.
If you were my son, I'd say I have no son. I mean, but I am interested in hearing what you have to say, because I'm not a big fan of Wilton Simpson. I'm not a big fan of the fact that he wants to go ahead and put a lot of extra buildings out here in East Hernando County, which is more pristine land. And yet he owns a big chunk of the development firm that would do just that. And he'd also be in charge of helping with the policy.
So you're telling me that our Commissioner of Agriculture in Florida, who is an owner and part of the big ag movement with his egg manufacturer, is also heavily involved in the real estate of developing rural Florida. Wow, that's
correct.
That is rough to think that the guy who's in charge of our agriculture wants to develop our agricultural land so he can make some money. That's just sad. Doesn't
with
give me
that,
hope.
guys. It is time. We have to call it here.
Yeah, I know. Carlos, you got the final word, man.
Smoke weed every day, guys.
We need to do that after this show.